Hello, welcome to R&B Reviews. Today we are going to be reviewing the new Friday the 13th film. The story of this Friday the 13th film is probably just about like all the other ones. Group of kids get lost and they come across the Crystal Lake camp where Jason drowned, and then he comes back and hacks them all up. So that's basically the storyline for this film. And I gotta admit, I've never seen, I've seen some slasher films. This was the first Jason Friday the 13th movie I've seen, and I gotta admit, I was really hoping for a real gore scarefest, and I mean, I could see, but it didn't work too much for me. I could see the deaths coming right around the corner, and I really don't watch a lot of slasher movies, but you know, they say the dialogue like, "Oh, I'll go to the shed," and they're like, no, you can't go out there. There's a killer on the loose. No, I'll go out. I'll be fine. And then, you know, that happens to him. You know, it was a little predictable, and, you know, I could see the deaths coming. It wasn't anything suspense about it.
Yeah, the movie, I don't know, it seemed like every time a character was gonna die or something, they would just follow a very stereotypical slasher movie plot, like, you know, I'll go out to the shed and try and find the tools, or, you know, let's take a walk out in the woods, you know, or... It seems like every time a character was going to die, they would almost announce it, like a couple scenes beforehand, and you just sort of sat there waiting for them to get their due, and it really wasn't, no suspense really was created. I mean,
yeah. I did like the characters in this film. I didn't know if this was going to happen, but there was something I liked about it. I liked the characters. You know, they were all very interesting. You know, you had the Asian friend who threw a lot of funny one-liners, and there's a scene where he's in the shed looking for tools to fix a chair, you know, that because they're over at a friend's house and he breaks it and it's an antique. The black friend was another interesting one that I really thought was good. You know, the characters were really good.
Yeah, that was definitely a strong point. The characters weren't too stereotypical or anything. I mean, they tried to distinguish them, and they were all pretty entertaining and funny to watch. I mean, they did have a lot of good lines in there, and the characters, you know, they had like the sympathetic guy trying to find his sister who was missing from Crystal Lake for a month or something like that, and then you have like the one guy who's just a complete douchebag who was a great character. I mean, yeah. They follow a lot of like slasher movie plot lines, but the characters were more than just basically like one-dimensional surface level characters who were just there to die. I mean, they did give them something to do at least before you saw them make their screen exit. And there's one character in the movie who is held hostage by Jason, and this just sort of like I liked it because it was something new in the series, and I was just like, well, this is actually pretty interesting. But then it sort of reminded me of like movies like Saw and stuff like that. These sort of movies where people are just like are held captive against their will and stuff, like Wolf Creek and stuff, like movies like that. And it kind of felt like, you know, it was sort of like taking Friday the 13th and then almost like trying to apply it with modern day horror movies. And I wasn't really, I sort of like, for a second I kind of scratched my head. It's like, no, Jason would kill this person. He wouldn't take him hostage. That's not what he does. But yeah, I thought it played into the plot well enough that it doesn't distract you, or it doesn't really, it definitely plays into who the character is in this movie.
Yeah. This is the first Jason movie I've seen, and I gotta admit, I don't know if this is normal in the Jason series, but I found the photography to be very grainy and sometimes a little unclear, and sometimes I couldn't make things out. But that was one element of the movie I really didn't like, was I really couldn't see what I was supposed to be looking at some of the times.
Yeah, it was hard to get really I guess I want to say an identification of the surrounding. I mean, I thought all the stuff they shot in like the daytime looked really good. I mean, you could see everything. It looked very clear and stuff. But whenever you had a scene at night, it seemed like it just got really dark, and they only really just like sort of lit the actors' faces, and you couldn't really make stuff out. And it was hard to get an idea of the geography of Crystal Lake, really.
What was your impression of the film? You've seen the other Friday the 13th film. How would you compare this one to the old ones?
Well, I think if you're going to watch a Friday the 13th movie, don't start with the remake. Start with the first one. And they pretty much, even the remake follows a very similar formula. Granted, the remake, I think, threw some more interesting plot lines in there. I mean, with the guy trying to find his sister and stuff. I mean, and, you know, you sort of see how that all plays out and stuff. I thought that was a very interesting plot storyline, as opposed to like the first one, which is just a bunch of counselors at Camp Crystal Lake who just sort of get picked off one by Jason's mother. And I thought, you know, Jason wasn't as threatening or opposing or evil as like I thought the killer in My Bloody Valentine was. The My Bloody Valentine remake was, I thought, a much more entertaining film experience than this was. It's like, if you go see a remake, I'd stick with My Bloody Valentine and skip Friday the 13th. I mean, it's got some interesting gore effects and stuff like that, but the kills don't feel that inventive. I mean, you can only kill people so many ways with a machete and stuff, but Jason fans, I think, will find things to like in it, but, you know, if you're a Jason fan, you're going to see this movie either way.
Yeah. My overall impression of the movie is, I think unless you're a Jason Voorhees Friday the 13th fan, you're probably going to go ahead and see it in theaters anyway. It's like you have an obligation. But for me, everybody else, I would say rent it on DVD. You know, I didn't think it was a big rush to go to the theaters and see it. You know, when I left the theater, I felt a little cheated. You know, I felt like I was hoping for a real great scare fest, and I really didn't get too much of that. So I would say rent it on DVD.
I think I'd have to agree with you. I'm somewhere between rent it and just snuff it. I mean, because I'm not a huge fan of these remakes and stuff, but there have been better remakes, and this one just kind of finds itself in the middle. I mean, it's not horribly bad, but it doesn't really take any leaps to be really great and stand out. I mean, it just didn't do enough, I think, to really impress me. I mean, the original films are pretty much sort of, it's very similar from movie to movie. Kids have sex, they die. You know, they get drunk, they die. You know, it's like the two rules. And this movie really didn't diverge from that, and I kind of felt they should have taken more advantage of the whole Camp Crystal Lake setting. Because I really liked seeing that stuff, and the stuff with Jason's mother, and that he has like a locket with her picture in there and stuff. I really like that stuff. How they had the connection back to the mother, but like you said, you know, you just walked out there, you kind of felt cheated. So you know, it's kind of like I walked out there. It's just like, this is where my $7 went. You know, wait till it comes out if you want to rent it. You know, if you really want to see it, wait till you rent it, because you're good at the theaters. You know, just save your money.
Okay, so it sounds like you would be more on the rent it side than the snuff it side.
Yeah, this isn't a movie. It isn't a movie I would recommend. But if you're a Jason fan, frankly, you're not gonna listen to what someone else says about the movie. You're gonna see it either way, and you know that's fine, because I was the same way with the Halloween remake, and this one just didn't really interest me that much.
Okay, all right. Well, that's our verdict for Friday the 13th. I say rent it, and it sounds like he says rent it, or yeah.
Rent it or ignore it. If you like horror movies, you'll enjoy this, but there's really nothing new here for you.
Okay. Thank you very much for watching. Please leave any feedback or comments, and we'll see you at the movies later.